All right, so it's been a while since we've done an update, and you'll probably hear it in my voice, but I'm getting over being sick. Jason and I both got pretty sick here for the last couple weeks. But we were able to, here and there, get the seed started. Very low energy, but thankfully we are on the mend. I wanted to go through what I have started and the fact that we were already behind, and then when we got sick, we have actually dumped over 60 gallons of sap and pretty much stopped our maple production right now. Thankfully, the weather also got really cold, and so the taps haven't been running much. So over the last few days, it's going to continue for another few days, so we have a little bit more time to recoup before we're going to try to get back to making maple syrup. So more videos on that to come if we are able to get there. So a lot of the plants that I wanted to start this year, I typically start in the end of January, early February. We are now at the end of February, last day of February actually. And some of these I was starting some this past weekend, or even yesterday I think I started 2 things yesterday. Again, doing really little amount of work at once, like half an hour max before I'd get too tired. So I want to go through though and show you guys it's a mix of vegetables and flowers, and also talk about how I'm doing it and why I'm doing it certain ways. There's a lot started here. So this first tray here is ranunculus. You can see these little, actually this one's kind of sticking out. These little spider roots here, you can see how they're kind of lifting up the soil. Some in here. These are early. They take, I think, about 80 to 90 days to bloom, days to maturity. And so these are great spring flower. So this is the first time I'm growing them. I'm only doing 1 tray. I do have the labels done. One day I did just labels. That was like a huge effort for me. There's a homecoming mix. I can't even read my handwriting. A romantic mix, and then happy mix in the back here. So basically soaked the chromes, the roots, just little ball roots, for about 2 hours, and then put them in soil. It's kind of damp. I just watered this tray. I haven't watered the rest, and you'll see there's a couple different types of soil. So some of the soil colors might look darker. It's not because they're overwatered or too dry or anything like that. It's just the way it looks. I also did take off all the domes. Each one of these trays does have a dome on it. The next couple trays I'll show you are lithianthus, and these I'm really a little bit nervous on for germination rates. You can see the start of the soil is starting to get a little dry, so I will come and spray these. But you can see there's definitely some moisture in this tray area, as you can see the little beads on the labels. These ones are pelleted. You can see these bright yellow little seeds all over here. And there's a bunch of different colors, or 2 different colors per tray. So the front one, or back one down here, is the Roseanne 2 green, and then the black pearl is up here. Lithianthus is known to be really hard to germinate, and so I also have ordered plants this year from Ball Seeds through Rakers. And I'm really excited for that. It's not cheap, but I really wanted to have a good lithianthus seed starting. The next ones are the Doubleini Blues and the Voyage to First Love, Voyage to Champagne, and I don't remember what's in the front of this tray. There may not be anything yet in this front of the tray. This is a problem when you have head sickness. It's really hard to remember everything. So I'm guessing that there's nothing in here, but I could have planted something, so we'll see. Um, then I have, oh, over here. Here's the other one. Arena 3 Gold and Corelli Light Pink. Lithianthus has a couple of different types. That usually there's classes. I think there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. From my understanding, the best ones for where we are in North Central Mass, zone 5b, with 155-ish day season between frosts. The best choices are the 2s and the 3s, unless I was to start these back in December. They have a really long time to germinate, and they also then just go really slow. But a lot of these you can actually plant out before your last frost, as long as you have a frost cover cloth like fleece or a hoop house. And so some of these, my goal is to plant them into the hoop house, and then others will go under light frost cloth. I'm gonna switch over here to some veggies quickly. We've got the trident anchos, which is a poblano that's really long and pointy. Cayenne peppers. There's 2 types of jalapenos. There's an early jalapeno and there's a black jalapeno. Barren ancho, which is another type of poblano. This is the Bastion ancho, which is another poblano. Cherokee Carbon, which is an heirloom tomato. Orange Thai, Serrano, and a Guajillo pepper. So you're going to be like, why is there all these like single trays, right? I'm not just doing one per. There's probably 20, or between 10 and 25 seeds in each one of these trays, to give you an idea. And the reason I do that is because once they get the true leaves, then I'm going to transplant them up anyways, because with the peppers and the tomatoes, I'll actually plant them if the first true leaf is like here, I'll actually bury them when I transplant them up to that first true leaves and pick those off and then move them in, or so there's a lot of transplanting that will be happening here, and then they'll all go into their own trays or their own 4-inch pots. I do like these deeper tall, I think they're 4x5s for the root spacing on them, especially for peppers and tomatoes. And some of these will actually, peppers and tomatoes will go into the next size pot, which is like that 6-inch, 5 or 6-inch round. So you'll notice there's a whole lot of singles labeled, but there's actually a whole lot of plants in there. Over here, I did start some status. These are the yellow. The yellow were really short last year, so I'm really hoping by starting these earlier, I might be able to get some of that height before they're trying to shoot flowers. Shishitos, which are the peppers you use for pepperoncinis, pickled pepperoncinis. Red picnic, orange picnic, another red picnic, and yellow picnic. The yellow and orange picnics came in seeds of only 10 each or something like that. It's really little amount of seeds. So I did extra reds because the reds actually came in quite a high quantity. I may try to actually save some seeds from the yellow and orange, but I'm not sure yet. Parsley, I did 3 little guys of parsley. Again, these will start getting split out into 4-packs. They don't need to go into a much bigger one, but this allows me to start a lot more up front without needing that space. We went over this one already. Over here, I've got the Ace bell peppers, the sweet bell peppers, Cherokee Carbons, California Wonders back here and here. This is another one that I didn't label. I know it's a pepper, but that's about it. It does happen, unfortunately. Cherokee Carbon, another California Wonder, Cherokee Carbons. Cherokee Carbons are an heirloom tomato. And I, again, putting them all in the seed seeds pretty closely, and we'll start bottom watering these. You can see the tray's pretty dry, but the soil's still pretty moist. Back here, this is all celery, and there's about maybe 3 or 4 plants per cell in these 4 packs. I went back and forth on how much celery to do because I had way too much last year, but it was actually pretty fantastic. And since we are going to be selling some of our vegetables, celery is a great one to sell. So I was kind of excited. It is a long crop, but it fits in really nicely around other veggies. The back here is big beef, and the front is a red long like shallot onion here. This whole tray is the red long shallot. And then over here, you can see these have already come up. These are a couple days ahead. These 2 trays are the talon onions. We grew those last year. They were very good. I did not water enough onion seed this year. So this is all the onions that I'm starting from seed, I think, which is really unfortunate. But because of that, I did actually order onion plants from Johnny's Selected Seeds, and I will use those. The onion plants over sets is highly recommended if you aren't going to start your own seeds. These are started a little bit late, so actually the plants that I'll get from Johnny Seeds will probably be bigger than these, since I'm starting these about a month to 6 weeks later than I actually wanted to. Sorry for the cords here. These lights are just on these hooks, so I can change the height of the lights very, very quickly, which is really nice. And there is a heat mat underneath here. I need to do some cleaning on the bench, but the heat tray comboed with the temperature in the room, I think, is set at 72. Those 2 things do help germinate things rather quickly. All right, so I have pastel yarrow, red yarrow here. These are perennials here and where we are. Rutgers is a tomato. It's I think it might be considered an heirloom actually, but it's the Campbell soup tomato. It's really sweet and really bright red. Amazing for Campbell's tomato soup recipes. And we did can quite a bit of them last year. We also like to mix these with the big beef and the Cherokee carbons in our regular base tomato sauces that we can. Iron pastel stock. This is the ones that are up. I'm hoping to plant these into the hoop house, and I will plant them pretty early and get them moved out to the hoop house pretty early, probably in about a month. Our last frost here is mid-May, early to mid-May. I think it's considered May 7th to 20th. So this will be moved out to the hoop house about a whole 2 months prior to our last frost, expected out in the open air. I am growing eucalyptus for the bouquets this year. And then I've got, just the regular Thai chili back there and another snapdragon there. More snaps and yarrow, delphiniums, feverfew. This is the feverfew in the white back there. These are the poppies. Kind of excited about those guys. And you can see I planted them really densely. I will, and the poppies are a bit of pain, but I will actually go and transplant those out and give them some more space once they have their actual true leaves. You can see the feverfew, the green, and the magic single. I did just see on one of the videos I watched recently, I think it was You Can't Eat the Grass video, that the feverfew green is actually not that great, so I'm now a little disappointed, but interested to see what I think. And then there's the lavender snapdragons that are just coming up in the front here. The other thing I have started behind me, I'll show you real quick, is just one big tray of spring mix. This has kale, it's got lettuces and spinach all mixed in, kind of grouped together, but then also sprinkled throughout. I think there's 4 different types of lettuces that we like to do. And this is planted again very densely. And the reason I do that is that I'll transplant these out into the hoop house very, very early. And that will give us a much better salad mixture, as well as I'll plant more seeds out there. So these are what I have left to grow to start. I've got a Torhina cherry. It's a orange cherry tomato, red ember pepper, another type of ancho, El Eden, Dusty Miller, and Valentine, which is a grape, and Mountain Magic. All of the cherries tend to get really leggy really fast, so I am going to try to start those in the next week, but they aren't ones that I wanted to prioritize. I do tend to start my tomatoes in the beginning of February, as well as my peppers in the beginning of February, like I said, and just have to transplant. I like to do that because I prune them really well. I make sure all the flowers and buds are picked off, and I'm constantly transplanting so they don't get root bound. And I have the space. Most people who don't have a hoop house or don't have a large basement space to start your seeds wouldn't have that opportunity. And so then if you're limited on space, I don't recommend starting your tomatoes that early. But by the time I'm putting them in the ground at the last frost date, they're 2.5 feet tall or so, which helps them kind of kick off pretty quickly as long as they're not root bound. But it's really important to fertilize them and to keep them going. To give you guys an idea of how many seeds I still have left, here's all the ones I haven't planted yet this year. Some of these will go direct seed in the ground. There's a bunch of carrots and different things and root crops. There's corn, there's beans, there's a bunch of different things. There's also some more flowers that I will start here in the next 4 weeks, closer to our average last frost. The best thing you can do is print out a week calendar and really highlight the week numbers of before your average last frost and after. And if you do that, it's really easy to start scheduling yourself out. But again, there's a whole bunch of things where a lot of people don't have the type of setup that we do. We have more lights that we'll be putting in, more tables that we'll be setting up and shelving units. And we're able to keep this place heated pretty well. And with our solar, the extra lights being on is not an issue. Some of these will actually get moved away from the heat pads and heat stuff really quickly because they actually do better once they germinate off the heat mat. So that's something to always look at when you're starting your seeds and just see what works for you. But again, I love doing these single pot starts and I find it really, really successful to be able to transplant. But I have a lot of years of experience handling seedlings, and they're pretty hardy for the most part, and they're pretty forgiving. But you can have some loss, so making sure that you are growing extra more than you expect to need is really important, so that you have some easygoing and not as stressful transplanting when you get there. I will try to keep you guys posted, but for now I'm going to start bottom watering quite a bit. You'll notice too, a lot of these trays don't have any breaks. I didn't even do soil blocks like a lot of people. Again, I'm not that worried because of how much I will move these or transplant these. And like onions, for example, they're going right in the ground. So me not having them in trays for this tray and this tray, like that's not a big deal for me at all. You can just break them off, and once they're dry soil a little bit, you can pull them apart really, really easily. There's probably some videos from last spring, but I'll continue to do that for this year. If you have any questions on what I'm growing or things like that, please let me know. We do have a new website up, so I will post a link to that, flickerhillhomestead.com. And I did put a resources page up as well, so you can see where we buy our seeds and some of the other tools we're using in the gardens. But thank you guys. Please, if you find this video useful, let me know. If you have any questions, let me know. Happy to help. And we're off. It's starting to actually feel and look like spring. Thanks, everyone.